Okay. Anyway, I'd like to share with you the idea I have to venture on this endeavor, which is called Trauma and Resilience Initiative. And let's first talk about the past before we go ahead and discuss the future. This is my younger brother when he was working at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, Southern California. He was trained as an endocrinologist and a cardiologist in the Netherlands and Vancouver, Canada, and switched gears joining up the NASA space program as a cardiologist taking care of astronauts. You think, what does that have to do with trauma and resilience? I'll get to it a little later. On the other hand, one of the problems that an astronaut has when he or she enters a capsule is that there's a lot of stress. So my interest in stress was originally very early ventured. I'd like to discuss a couple of issues which always have bothered me about what is stress and how do I see this as a second generation Holocaust survivor. What does it mean, lambs to the slaughter? Or how did the Jews during the Holocaust really forge any resistance? What is collaborative resistance? And finally, the coup de grace is the Trauma and Resilience Initiative. What is the medical study for the generations to generations all about? Over here you see some nasty pictures of people in Amsterdam. This was the first razzia in Amsterdam. This was in February 1941, and this was during what they call the Federer Strike. This was a strike by the general population that they didn't like the way that the Dutch or the Germans were treating the Jewish people who were living also in Amsterdam. So at this moment, it's very difficult to resist somebody who's pointing a gun at you. So this is what I call acute stress. There's a threat, you can't do anything. Basically, that's what, on the other hand, this is also taken in Amsterdam. And as you can see, there are a lot of our comrades over here, and there are very few Germans. So this is what brought the idea, lambs to the slaughter, about. This is a Jewish invention, by the way, which is kind of interesting because these are not lambs that are not going to the slaughter. These are people who are chronically stressed and have an idea that they're totally paralyzed. They can't do anything about the situation. So this is what I call an acute stressful situation. This is a chronic stressful situation. And this is, for those of you who are interested in hormones, this is the acute reaction of somebody who does do a stressful intervention or wants to hurt you. The brain thinks this is a stress, so I need to prepare my body for that stress. In an acute event, it is great to do that. I have to stand here? Okay. Okay, I apologize.
You'll see on YouTube.
Okay. So this is an acute stressful situation, as you had seen on the picture on the left. On the right, you can see a chronic situation. If you constantly repeat that acute stressful situation, whether or not it's real or it's perceived, your brain alters the situation by having this perceived as a chronic stressful situation. Do you understand this? You can follow me right now? So what is collaborative resistance strategy? Well, it's a method by which some of our Jewish comrades behaved by collaborating, quote unquote, with the German occupiers to enhance their own ability to get what they want, which is basically things good of nature. And I'll give you an example. One of the people that I feel that deserves more attention, not because it's my father, but because has nothing to do with it, but because it's kind of enigmatic to me what happened. My father was born in Galicia in 1894, and he served in the Austrian-Hungarian army in the First World War, fighting a holy war against the Tsarist Russians. And they did do very well. The Jews were very well integrated in the K&K Armee, the Kaiserliche und Königliche Armee. And basically what happened, he got wounded after eight months being on the front by one of the Russians. Then he was transported to Jacques, and he recuperated. He started studying medicine in Vienna. He became a doctor, and then the Germans invaded in 1938 Austria. So after the Anschluss, he tried to get to America where he had relatives. And what happened, he got stuck in Holland because his boat was torpedoed and he had to stay in Holland. He lost his first wife during one of the razzias. He was betrayed by the Jewish council, who basically put him on a train to Theresienstadt, but was saved by the head of the SS, who basically removed him from that list and said, no, you better work with me. He became at that time a dental surgeon and worked with the SS. On the other hand, at the same time, he made copies of different keys. Because he was a dental surgeon, he had also the ability to make keys. So he helped escape 12 people from this gathering station. After the war, which he thankfully survived, he married my mother. He had lost 52 members of his family. My mother had lost something like 40. But nevertheless, he started anew. And because he was Austrian, he had difficulty getting a Dutch nationality, great problems. He was no longer to work as a physician, so he had to redo medicine at the age of 53, which is not a small feat. Nevertheless, he did do very well. Here's my father and mother at the age of 80 and 70. They enjoyed life. Like Ross just indicated, what's the thing that keeps him going? I don't know. I wish I knew. I think it's some kind of resilience. But what the secret is, can you imagine surviving 2 world wars? Your first wife is killed, being hurt in another war, being as a hungry individual after the Second World, weighing only 40 kilograms. And he was taller and a little bit more obese than I am. Can you imagine how much that is? So this is one part. This is called the past. This is the present. This is a picture of my Maimonides Jewish High School in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. We had a reunion in 2006. And here you see the people who are attending this meeting. There are 5 medical doctors. There are 3 lawyers. There are 5 millionaires. There's 1 mayor. There's 1 chairperson of the soccer club Ajax. So they're not doing so well, so badly. On the other hand, there are 5 people who committed either suicide or are hooked on drugs. So what is the difference between this group and the other groups, which are not on the picture? They're all second generation. They all have the same kind of stories like I have. On the other hand, if you look at a little bit more deeper how they do feel, there's this quiet desperation within their individual emotional feelings. So it's not all hunky-dory. Nevertheless, what makes some people tick so well and others just completely, quote-unquote, fail? So that's why I started to do this Trauma and Resilience Initiative. But I noticed that there's very little known about the medical aspects of resilience or trauma. And lately, a lot of new possibilities to study trauma and resilience have been done. This is a picture on the left, which is by a sculptor named Zatkin, and it stands in Rotterdam, and it shows, or it means, destroyed inner city. After the Germans invaded Holland, they carpeted Rotterdam completely. So that's why this statue is appropriate. On the right side, you see the dock worker in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, which is a symbol of the Dutch strike against the Jewish being transported to the eastern. And here you see a dock worker, and he symbolizes resilience. For those of you who are familiar with Amsterdam, you can see in the back the Jewish synagogue, the Synagogue, which is over 400 years old. So what does the study entail? It's a research initiative to assess the medical risk factors in 2 sequential generations of Shoah survivors for trauma and resilience. So this sounds easy to do, but these are some of the medical aspects that I would like to include. Right now I have about 120 people who are in a very similar situation than I am. They're second generation, they have a third generation that they need to take care of. And what is it that some of them have some kind of magic and have a great deal of resilience, whereas others do not? So these are some of the proposed interventions or assessments that I would like to do. First of all, I'd like to have a structured interview looking for a medical, sociological, and psychological aspects. And these are other parameters which I think are important, and maybe can Avi comment on this, what I should include or not include. And one of the things that I very much like to know is how does the DNA transform from one generation to another generation? What's the epigenetic expression? And heart rate variability is also a very interesting topic. So to conclude, the term lambs to the slaughter is not valid. It should not be used. The collaborative resistance strategy is a term which I think should be introduced, because right now we know a little bit more how much Jewish physicians and other Jewish fighters really did oppose the German occupiers. And the Trauma and Resilience Initiative basically wants to ask the question, what is the contribution of nature versus nurture? And I want to leave it like here, and want to ponder not too long about how to move ahead. Thank you.